Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 233. We're recording this on Sunday, November 19th, 2017. I'm David Lotz. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson.
What's up, everybody?
And Yasha Wilson.
Hey.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Michelle
Good.
is, we'll just say, out on assignment. She is not here. But we've got the three of us.
Hell yeah, we do.
We got plenty to talk about. We got a big movie this week to talk about for sure.
Hell yeah, we do.
And I am very, very interested to hear what everyone has to say about Justice League.
Hell yeah, you are. That's just going to be the phrase for the day. I'm just going to kind of go with that, like every time. Like, gosh, how you doing? Hell yeah, I am. That doesn't make any sense.
Nice.
Hell yeah, it doesn't. That's what I'm running with.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I have spoken to Michelle. I know she's not getting a chance to even see it this weekend, but I think she's going to try to see it sometime this week. So hopefully next episode she can share her thoughts. But yeah, we're pretty much going to be talking about Justice League this week. Normally we end our shows with a segment we call I Challenge You. But because we're going to be talking about Justice League, because we are definitely going to be talking about spoilers and we want to end with spoilers, we're going to switch things up. And we're actually going to start off with I Challenge You. And to recap a little bit for anyone who has never heard this segment before, in I Challenge You, each week someone, a member of the podcast, is challenged to watch something that they have never seen before. For whatever reason, maybe they just didn't want to see it, maybe they just missed it, who knows. But and then they in turn get to challenge someone else after they have watched what they've been challenged to watch. Last week, I challenged Bobby to watch a couple episodes at least of The Crown.
You did.
Because we had just seen finally a trailer from Netflix for season 2 of The Crown, which I think is dropping on December 8th, if I remember correctly. And I thought it was fitting. Finally time, Bobby, for you to check out a little bit of The Crown, which I know is on your list, but you hadn't found time to watch yet. So, Bobby, did you watch The Crown?
Lay it on us, big guy.
I did watch The Crown, and it, like you said, it was one of those shows that's been on my list of things to watch, and there's just been so much peak TV right now with the shows that I'm currently watching, trying to catch new shows, and just everything else with movies. It's just been hard to really get and dwindle down my list. So it was sort of a blessing in disguise that you told me as my challenge to watch The Crown, because it is something I had been wanting to see. And all I really knew about it going into it was that it had to do with Queen Elizabeth II, and basically before she becomes the queen and taking you through that journey. And in this role is Claire Foy, right, as the queen, or as Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And I didn't, that's all I knew really. And I didn't really realize that John Lithgow was in it as Winston Churchill, and Matt Smith from Doctor Who fame is in it as well as Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, I think. And I have to say, it's interesting because it's a very slow-paced show, but it's more of a character-driven show. And so at the end of the 2 episodes, the first episode, I felt like, okay, you're sort of setting the stage, but I don't really understand or know where this is going. I don't know where we're moving towards. And then within the second episode, you really start to discover the elements of what's in play here. And I'll say this, after 2 episodes, I'm interested to watch more, but it didn't necessarily make me feel like, oh, I've got to binge the rest of this right now, because it wasn't anything that was just overly exciting in a way that made you feel like this is a binge-worthy show, then I have to watch the rest of it. And absolutely, it could definitely get to that point after a few more episodes. But really, what I actually felt like what pulled me into the show more than anything was the performance of Jared Harris, who played King George. He was really, really good in the role, and he had a lot to do in the term of the 2 episodes that I saw him in. And so that really pulled me into it. With Claire Foy as Elizabeth, it felt like she didn't have a lot to do within those first 2 episodes, other than a lot of times she just looked sullen and sad and just didn't have much to do for a lot of it. But as the second episode progressed and midway through, it seemed like she was starting to come into more emotion and have more of a I guess a feel for the character and doing different things other than just having this sort of look on her face that she seems to have for most of the 2 episodes that I saw. And so I'm interested now to see where it's going to start going to, because now she's at the point where she has to step up into that role of queen, and you have to obviously get more from her because there's more at stake. And it seems as though, as I finished those 2 episodes and really looked at the cover art for the show, it looks as though Winston Churchill's character, played by John Lithgow, will still be a continuing presence within the show, and he's putting in a good performance as well. So I want to see where that goes. And I am starting to get to that point where I'm interested to see how it all goes, because I'll admit I know next to nothing about Queen Elizabeth, and I just know who she is, but I don't really know her story. So how much of it is fact that they're showing in the show, I have no idea. But from what I'm seeing, I'm interested to see how everything plays out and get a snapshot of what her life was like, because I really don't know anything.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. You mentioned that. It makes me think about an article, I think actually that you shared, maybe it was this week, about the upcoming season 2, and maybe it was some cast members, or I forget who was saying that. It was something along the lines about how no one is prepared for what's going to happen in season 2. And when I read that, I was like, well, I know I'm not prepared, because I know I should know more about Queen Elizabeth's reign, but I really don't. But I'm reading that thinking, well, I imagine there's some people that are prepared, right? I mean, this is based on reality.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, how much of it is entertainment and how much of it is fact?
Right. I mean, I'm sure it's entertainment in the end, and I'm sure they're taking some liberties, but I kind of get the impression that this is pretty close to reality, for the most part, the main kind of plot lines, Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, unless you're doing something drastically crazy in season 2, I imagine there's some people that are prepared, but call me crazy. I don't know. But no, that's I'm glad you finally watched it. I hope you keep watching it. I mean, I'm trying to remember even like what was happening by the end of the second episode, but I do feel like, if you keep watching, I feel like it gets even better.
Okay.
Because if I remember correctly, I think I felt the same way. Like, I was definitely pulled in because of just my interest in the subject pretty quickly, but I feel like the episodes got even better, like 4 or 5 or so, if I remember right. But and yeah, I don't know. I just thought John Lithgow was great as with Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
But cool. So I guess that means you get to challenge somebody to watch something now.
Yes, you're right. It is my turn. I almost kind of forgot that I'm up.
So you got to think of something on your feet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had, but
okay.
It's just I kind of forgot within the segment. I was ready to start talking Justice League. I forgot. I got to pick something. Okay, so I had thought about this beforehand, and knowing going into this show, I took a couple factors in, and I am going to switch things up this week and do something that hasn't been done. And I am going to challenge the person who just challenged me. So that would be you, David.
Okay.
So I have my reasons.
Typical. Just tip. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you know what? I mean, if I'm pulling back the curtain just a little bit, I know Yash has been super busy. And so it's like, I don't want to add one more thing onto his plate really right now. And also with Michelle not here, and I know she has to catch up on Justice League, I figured David's an easy target. He probably can not have much to watch next week and can probably knock this out pretty easily.
Bring it on.
So
he doesn't have anything going on. I mean, the 2 kids, the job.
Anything that he doesn't normally have going on that he can juggle.
Super laid back.
Thanksgiving, Black Friday.
You're not Black Fridaying this year.
Not
I
really
just
not.
made that into a headline, right?
I mean, yeah, I
dude,
totally am.
Are we all caught? Are you challenging him to watch Daredevil season 2? Is that
No.
the challenge?
No.
Because I can
Although
get behind that. I can get fully behind that. I think what should happen is we should all just constantly, just every week, challenge David to watch season 2 of Daredevil.
And then I'll watch 2 episodes, and then when I get challenged again, I watch 2 more episodes. Eventually, I'll make it through.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, you're all on the right track in this sense, Yasha, because there's so many different TV shows and movies and things that David hasn't had a chance to watch, and I won't use this as a chance to make him watch something that sucks or something that I'm not aware of myself. And I thought about this, and I have a decent sized list for things that I just want to challenge David with. But at the top of this list for now, and I'm going to go with, is a TV show that, if I'm not mistaken, really passed you by, David. And I believe Michelle has seen it. I'm pretty sure Michelle has seen it. I think Yasha has seen it, and I know I've definitely seen it. So there's this little show that came on and went, but had a huge following called Firefly. Familiar with it?
I am familiar with it.
All right. Well, I am challenging you to watch the 2 episodes of Firefly, but not just any random 2 episodes, not just the first and second episode, because infamously Fox aired the shows out of order. So I can't tell you to watch it in the way that it was traditionally shown. I have to give you the episodes in which there's a Wikipedia out there that gives you the order you should watch it in the way it was intended, even though Fox didn't show it that way. So the 2 episodes that I'm going to say you should watch are Serenity and The Train Job.
Serenity and The Train Job. Now, Serenity, is that the film?
That's not the film. That's an actual episode.
Okay.
Type.
Now, it's interesting you're challenging me to watch this, because I will say it's not like I've never seen the show. In fact, I think I've watched the first 3, 4 episodes. I think.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Oh, but you've definitely watched it then, right?
I've definitely watched the show. Like I said, I think 3 episodes, maybe it was 4 episodes. I forget. I don't know what their names were. I don't know what the titles of those episodes were, but it's not like I've never seen the show at all. I have seen it. I just haven't watched the whole season.
Then how about, then I will punt this one then, since you've seen it.
Okay.
And we've got that established that you've at least seen it. So my next one, and tell me if you've seen this, and because I like I said, I have a list here. So
okay.
The next one is something that we've talked about, and it's a Jungle Book.
Oh, the film Jungle Book. No, I haven't seen that.
There you go.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. I want to see that. That's cool. Sweet.
Since I know that
and that's something you can watch with the kids too. That's a fun challenge for you.
Sweet. Yeah, that'll be good.
Yes, especially since Jon Favreau is doing Lion King, and that's all set to go with the full cast. I figured you can get a sense of what you might be in for with Lion King if you check out Jungle Book.
Sweet. Jungle Book it is. I will watch that before the next episode.
Sweet.
And then I have another movie I'm watching this week. I'm excited. I have tickets to see Lady Bird Tuesday night.
I don't know anything about it, but I know I want to see it because I keep hearing things like buzz about it, but not necessarily what it's about. So I'm going to go into it kind of blind and just see what it is.
Yeah, I'll just say it's got Saoirse Ronan in it, and it's written and directed by Greta Gerwig. Mm-hmm. And I just checked just now, and it's got 147 reviews right now on Rotten Tomatoes, and it is rocking 100%.
Oh my god! Wow.
So, yeah.
This is Lady Bird.
Lady Bird.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it. So yeah, now I've got 2 films to watch this week. Plus, I don't even know what's coming out Thanksgiving week. Oh yeah, Coco. I want to go see Coco this week. Oh man. Mm-hmm. I got a busy week, man. I gotta make this happen.
No, I'm not interested really in seeing that. I feel weird saying that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
It's funny, speaking of that, I actually saw Cars 3 yesterday.
I'm sorry.
How was that?
And when I say I saw it, I did see most of it. I think there was a chunk in the middle where I got up and made the kids dinner or something. But yeah, it was like one of those nights where it was like, okay, let's download a new movie for the kids. Cars 3's on there. And immediately my son was like, oh my God, get that, get that, get that. I'm like, all right, fine. And it was fine. I mean, I think it was better than the second film.
Okay.
But, you know, I would say it's a good kids movie, really, in the end. I mean,
That makes sense.
when I think about it in the pantheon of Pixar films, and when I think about the Pixar films that I hold dear, that I think are just great movies, Cars 3, yeah, nowhere near. No, not even in the same world. It's just not the same kind of movie as like a Wall-E or an Up, you know? But, yeah, I mean, it was decent.
Would you say it's better or worse, or I shouldn't even say worse, but did you like it more or less than The Good Dinosaur?
I liked it probably less.
Okay, because The Good Dinosaur seems to be the barometer at what the low point is. It's the movie that people don't remember or tend to forget or don't like to talk about when it comes to Pixar movies.
It is. It's true. And Cars 3 is interesting in that I feel like Cars 3 came and went, and you could tell that I just got the impression that Disney was like, you know what, we don't need to market this. Like, we don't even care if people go to the theater to see it or whatever. We just want to attract kids on video and make more toys.
Right.
Like, that movie came and went. And for a Pixar film, I feel like it was just like, oh wait, a Pixar movie just came out. Like, it was just weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I got some movies to see this week. Sweet. All right.
At least The Jungle Book is on Netflix, so you don't have to go anywhere.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Sweet. Good to know. Well, I'll be watching Jungle Book this week, and then I get to challenge somebody, and yeah, I'll start thinking about that. Even though I've already had a couple ideas in mind now for like weeks, things to challenge.
Oh.
But anyway. All right, moving on then. We got a movie we got to talk about, and this is a big one. Justice League is finally here, and yeah, I don't know. Let's just kind of get right into it. I don't think there's much to talk about with the Justice League movie. Again, Justice League was directed by Zack Snyder for the
slash Joss Whedon.
Slash Joss Whedon. I was just going to say for the most part.
Right.
Though he is credited as the director on the film. And we've got the cast that we know and love for Justice League with some additions, obviously, with Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman. And but yeah, you know, let's just get right into it. Like I said earlier, we'll be talking about spoilers eventually. So when we get there, everyone listening, don't worry. We will give you plenty of warning before we talk about spoilers in case you haven't seen this movie yet. And let's just get right to it. As always, when we like to do a review like this, I usually like to consult the Bowl of Destiny to decide who's going to go first and take a crack at this.
I vote Bobby. Screw the bowl. I vote Bobby.
You vote Bobby, huh?
No, the bowl has to speak.
The bowl has to speak. If I don't use the bowl will like curse me or something. In my sleep, I can't have that, dude. It's in my house.
It's in my house.
I'll wake up and suddenly it'll be on my bedside table. I'll be like, how the fuck did you get here?
It'll be covering your face. Trying to smother you.
Jeez, dude. All right.
It sounded like a horror movie.
Yeah, it kind of did. All right. The bowl picks Bobby.
Nice. Okay.
Does it really?
It did. The bowl listened to you, Yasha.
That's the shit.
So, Bobby, it's interesting. It's my understanding that you actually tweeted something about your thoughts on this film, though I haven't seen the tweet.
Yeah, I did.
You did. So
I was wondering about that because I had been tweeting and I was trying to keep my thoughts to a minimum just in case someone happened to see it from the show, because we usually try and go in pretty blind before we talk about something. The world at large, I didn't mind, but
right.
I was just trying to keep it fresh for us. But yeah, I did. And I guess to just give my 1 sentence or 2 sentence thoughts on it, Justice League is something I've been looking forward to since I've been 6. And so
for a little while.
So it's been a little while. So I have high hopes going into it. And we've all know the controversy behind this film and just the missteps DC has taken into getting to this point. And I guess the first thing I have to say before I really get into my review is that going into this movie, I had a difficult time doing something that I'm normally able to do, which is see it from a perspective of the general audience and being able to divorce myself from what I know from reading comics or whatever the case may be, cartoons and stuff. So I had a difficult time doing that going into it. And when I ended up seeing the movie and getting out of that film, all I can say is that I felt a joy that I haven't felt since I watched the first Avengers movie. And I recognize that there is issues with this movie, but everything that I wanted from it, I got from it, which were the characterizations were spot on for me. There was this feeling that you get when you see them all together and working together. That is exactly what I wanted. They also had their individual moments to shine, and just the way the characters are in the comics felt like that's the way they were in the movie. And that's how I felt when I saw Avengers, seeing them for the first time together and seeing them how they interacted. It was just that feeling. And I have seen many other comic book movies in a sense that were better than Justice League, but none of them have made me feel the way Justice League made me feel. So I came out of it with a big old smile on my face, just super happy and just really in love with the film, just because of the kid inside me was happy. It was fulfilled to see something that it had wanted me to see since being that young. And I had took my son with me, and he's 9. And I remember at the end of the movie, he was like, wow, wow, wow. And he was just happy. And he just said over to me, or leaned over to me, like, that was so awesome. And I was like, yeah, it was a lot of fun, wasn't it? And he was just super happy, clapping through certain times in the movie and just smiling. And that's how I was sitting there next to him doing the same exact thing. So, yeah, I mean, to say I loved it is exactly dead on to how I felt about it, recognizing that there's definitely things that could be done better. And we'll get into that when we get into the spoilers. But my overall thoughts and feelings on it was just super positive coming out of it and ready to see a sequel. And with these actual actors and characters, once again, doing something more and getting into more of what the Justice League is. And, you know, based on the box office weekend, which we'll talk about at some point too, who knows if that will happen, but I am at least happy that I got this movie.
All right. Thank you, Bobby, for your thoughts. Moving on to me.
Hey now.
Thanks, Bull. Fine. Anyway, all right. So, Justice League, huh? I will start off by saying if you were sitting in the theater with me and had told me, let's say 45 minutes in, maybe even an hour in, if you had turned to me at that point and said, hey, David, when this movie ends, you're actually going to be happy with this movie, I would have laughed in your fucking face. Because I will say for the first basically half of that film, I was like, God damn it, this movie is not good. And I was not happy with what I was seeing. But the second half of the film redeemed it for me. And in the end, overall, I was happy with the movie I saw. So, yeah, that's my way of saying, basically like you just said, Bobby, this movie has problems. And for me, that is mostly in the first act or so of this film. But once the Justice League really gets together and becomes the Justice League and they start spending time together, this movie works. They work as a group. And those actors, those characters together, I really enjoyed watching. Way more than I expected. And yeah, like you said, in the end, it was just it. I found it to be fun, something we haven't gotten from the DCEU yet, really. And I was really happy with what I saw. And then I found myself immediately thinking, God damn it, now I'm scared I'm not going to get more of this. You know,
Yeah.
like this worked. This is what I want. You know, I mean, we're on the right track. This movie has problems, but boom, this is a glimmering hope of what things can be. And now I'm like, please, hands together, please let there be more movies like this. Like, please, let's make another Justice League. Please, let's actually get that Flash film. You know, I know we're getting the Aquaman movie, but yeah, I'm of course now immediately worried that the
Hmm.
DCEU will now fail, you know, and just fall apart. And I don't want that to happen because overall I was happy with this movie. Um, it's got problems. Some of the problems that maybe you've heard, at least that I've heard from a lot of other critics, were the similar kind of issues I had. The villain is not good. I do not like the villain in this movie. I hate the way he looks.
Mm.
I feel like he actually started to look better as the film went on. I don't know if it's just because I got used to the way he was, and I'm just like fine. But the CG villain is just like to me so unnecessary. I get that he's big, but I felt like there could have been a way to make him just I don't know look more realistic. And just yeah, the villain in general is just not a good villain. And the problems of this movie too stem from what I kind of expected, which is you got a 2 hour movie and we're having to introduce 3 characters of this Justice League that we've really never met before. You know, Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash.
Yeah.
And it's so it kind of makes things I feel like kind of a mess in the beginning of the movie. And but yeah, once they get together, man, and they start spending time together, and I don't know. I was just a kind of a joy to watch. And it's funny that in the end, if there were one Justice League member that I felt like was my least favorite, I felt like we could have maybe had a recasting. And this is funny considering how I felt after Batman versus Superman, but it would probably be Batman. Like, I don't know. Like, he's fine, but he's the one actor character in this mix that I didn't feel like meshed as well with everybody else. And if we were to recast one guy, he'd probably be the one. But yeah, Wonder Woman is still great. Or Gal Gadot is still great as Wonder Woman. And the Flash, I loved. He really just kind of steals the show for me in this movie, Ezra Miller. I found myself really enjoying Cyborg more than I expected. I'm familiar with Cyborg from the comics more recently, a little bit. But from the trailers, from what I've seen of Ray Fisher's Cyborg, I just, you know, from what I saw in the trailers, he seemed kind of just there and fine, I guess. But I don't know. In the end of the movie, I really enjoyed Cyborg quite a bit, and really, I don't know, I liked him. And Jason Momoa's Aquaman he was good. I feel like I'm looking a lot more forward to an actual Aquaman film to really flesh out that character more because I don't feel like he gets a lot of attention in this movie. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the film. That's all I'll say for now until we get into spoilers. So, Yasha, it's your turn.
Wow. I don't know how to follow those reviews.
Oh, you should have went first.
I should have. David, I'm actually going to kind of piggyback off of what you said, and I think you hit it nail on the head. I wasn't super pleased the very first part of the film, but it did kind of redeem itself as it got further into the film. I liked it. I wish I had loved it. And that's not saying I don't. I want to say that without. This is like the most confusing review I think I've ever given. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I enjoyed it. Would I watch it again? Yes. And there are definitely parts that I was really geeking out about, like Bobby said, with the team working together and everybody kind of coming. And it's like I feel like everybody kind of really encapsulated what the comic book was to work together, to talk to each other, to deal with each other. Their personalities kind of shone through just a little bit here and there. David, I was like, I don't know what your issue is with Ben Affleck as Batman, but it's pretty harsh. I actually was watching it, and I was really like, Jesus, this guy looks just like the comic book. Like, he looks just like the comic book. And I'm not talking about when he was in his outfit. I'm talking about when he was sitting there talking to Alfred. Notwithstanding, because some of the scenes that he did, I really don't feel like he was doing the best job acting. And that's not to say anything about Ben Affleck, because I actually like Ben Affleck. I enjoy his work. But I was watching him, and I'm just like, my God, this guy looks just like a comic book. Like, he looks straight from the comic book, in shape, looks like chiseled jaw, like looks like Bruce Wayne would look like, if in my opinion. And I thought that was, really fun. Like you, David, I wasn't a fan of Steppenwolf's costume or the whole CGI thing. I thought it was pretty bad for the most part. And then as the movie progressed, I just kind of, I think, accepted, opposed to like, well, this is how it is, kind of get over it. This is what it looks like. And I'm like, it kind of looks like it does from a comic book, but not in it entirely. So I think that's what my issue was. But I still enjoyed him, and I enjoyed his goal, I guess, for the most part. I really feel like everything about the DC universe is just kind of always constantly alluding to something else. There really doesn't feel like there's any kind of resolution. Even with the Marvel movies and the teasers at the end of the films and stuff, I always feel like there's some sort of resolution, and we've kind of like, okay, we're wrapped up the story. With the DC world and the DC universe, when they stop their movies, it's like they're not really teasing. Well, they're teasing you, but they're teasing you as like, oh, by the way, we left out like a huge part of this movie, and we'll address it later. It's like, wait, what? No, dude. Like, can we have some sort of closure right now? And I just don't feel like I got that with this movie. But I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed watching all the characters on screen. I enjoyed watching them fight. I enjoyed, without getting into spoilers, everything. I enjoyed Batman. I enjoyed Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot is awesome. The Flash did definitely stand out. So did Cyborg. And Aquaman. I mean, I thought he was going to be much bigger in the movie and have Jason Momoa's character much more prominent, but he just didn't really ever, I don't know, jump out. Like, right. I mean, he jumped out, but he didn't really ever I felt like he was always just about to start sprinting into like what he could do. And then we never got there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's kind of how I felt about, Jason Momoa's character. I feel like we could see so much more of him and really, really get into it. But this wasn't about that. Like, it wasn't, that's not where they wanted to go in the direction for it. So they just kind of teased it. But I enjoyed it. Like, I want to see more. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Aquaman. I really can't wait to see Flashpoint. I think that's what they're doing with Flashpoint with Ezra Miller. So that should be a lot of fun to watch. It was overall, it was good. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see more. Like, I'm hungry to see what they're going to do next, legitimately. So that's it.
Nice.
That's what I have to say without saying spoilers.
One or two things I didn't mention that I could still mention before spoilers that I kind of forgot about. The score of this film is by Danny Elfman, and definitely, again, for the DCEU so far, it is kind of a change of pace. It is very Danny Elfman. It's lighter. It's more fun than the darker Hans Zimmer stuff and Junkie XL stuff that we've heard so far from Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and such. But I like it a lot. It works here a lot. And there's no doubt that a lot of the stuff I like about this movie really feels like a lot of Joss Whedon influence in this movie. It would be interesting to see a true Zack Snyder cut of the film, but I'm not necessarily interested in seeing that. Like, and it'd be interesting just to see what he would have done on his own. But I have to say, I don't think it would have been as good as this.
Well, that said, David, I mean, think about this. It's like we both had the feeling of the movie getting better about halfway in to the end, about 45 minutes to an hour in to the end.
Right.
We did Joss Whedon come over and take over, because they said that he was coming in to basically edit the last part of the movie and kind of tape that together and put that together. And that's what we both really kind of seem to enjoy. I mean, can you imagine, like, maybe if that's the parts that he fixed from Zack Snyder's film? And I'm not trying to diss Zack Snyder in this
I'm
sentence,
not
but
either. I've said before, I actually am a Zack Snyder fan for the most part. Like,
yeah, me too.
he's got a lot of haters, and I'm really not one of them. Like, I like most of his films, though I'm extremely critical of Batman v Superman. Other than that, I like most of his work, but
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. But it's
yeah.
like, when you think of it, like with the review that we just gave, I mean, that's kind of like, oh, well, maybe this is what Whedon fixed, and that's why we like the end so
Right.
much, which is a shitty thing to say, but it's not totally false.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I mean, given why Zack Snyder had to leave, and then Joss Whedon coming in, and I guess having the free reign from the studio to kind of make some of the changes he made, and I don't know, it's an odd, weird situation. But in the end, I think it benefited the film from what I could tell. I and it's funny. I like a few hours before we started recording, I saw on Facebook an article about, I guess there's already a petition out there on change.org for people demanding that there be a Zack Snyder director's cut of this movie, and the score to be redone by Junkie XL, and because they're upset.
Okay,
they're upset that Joss did what he did to this film, and they also don't like how short the runtime is, and the movie needs to be longer. And I'm looking at the headline, just, God, you guys are out of your fucking minds. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if you think that would have been a better film, I'm sorry, I just don't agree. Again, I'm saying that as someone who enjoyed Man of Steel and likes most of Zack Snyder's stuff, but I'm sorry, it's time to move on from Zack Snyder here. It just is. And if you really think that would have been a better cut, I just really don't think so. And then when you think about the runtime, I think the runtime was perfect. Yeah, it's Justice League, right? It's supposed to be the big, we're all together now film. So in a way, it feels like this, maybe the end of this film should have had a bigger, more epic ending than it does. But it really doesn't need that. The ending is fine. The runtime, it works. If it had been any longer, it would have felt like too much. It would have felt like we're okay. This is dragging on. We don't need all this. No, I'm sorry, everyone who is on the Zack Snyder bandwagon. No. I disagree completely. But anyway, all right. Unless you guys have anything else, we can get into spoilers. So yeah, I guess we'll do that now. We're going to talk about spoilers for Justice League. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to pause, come back to the podcast later after you've seen the movie, because we'll be talking about Justice League spoilers from here on out, also including those after credit scenes. So let's just get right into it. Bobby, since you went first for the review, do you kind of want to start things off? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I guess one of the first things I wanted to mention is hindsight being 2020 and being a Monday quarterbacking the whole thing. I was thinking about what could DC have done in order to have made this work. And what I kind of came up with was essentially, if they had done this universe, they didn't necessarily have to do it like Marvel did and have each character have their own standalone movie before having a Justice League movie. But I think that if they had made Man of Steel the way they did, everything being as it is, it still would have been maybe divisive, but nevertheless, they introduced elements of there being a larger world out there with showing Gotham type stuff or Wayne Manor type or Wayne Tech and stuff like that. So there was that element there. But what I would have done is not done Batman versus Superman, and I wouldn't have done Suicide Squad. I would have had Wonder Woman come out next, and then the solo Batman movie come out third, which would have still could have been, if you had announced at that time after a Wonder Woman movie or during the production of a Wonder Woman movie that there was going to be a solo Batman movie starring Ben Affleck and directed by Ben Affleck and let him do the script that he had in mind and still seed in elements of being able to hint towards this larger threat that was coming, which causes him to go and find these other people, I think that could have led into a Justice League movie, because you want to start with the biggest three that are the comic book characters that most people know around the world, which would be Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And that would have been a good solid start, as opposed to having your Man of Steel, then immediately having this new Batman and them opposing each other in a film, and then going from that into a tangent into Suicide Squad, then kind of coming back to Wonder Woman, then going to Justice League. So I feel like if they just started with the big three first and then moved into a Justice League movie, that might have worked better for them. But, it's all hindsight. And the other thing that I guess I didn't really mention was I really, as opposed to you, David, I liked Ben Affleck in this movie really, because there was moments in this movie that I wanted to see him do in the Batman versus Superman movie, which was show a little bit more of his humanity in a sense. There was this particular line that he said in the movie, which had me kind of like, yes, this is what I want. When Alfred was talking about when they were thinking about bringing Superman back, and Alfred said something like, "You can't," or whatever, and Bruce was like, "He's more human than I am," and it's like, yes, that's like from the comics in a sense, because people always want to portray Superman as this alien from another planet and that he doesn't fit in with the world. But I've never seen him that way, and I've only seen them try and portray that in later years, because it seems like most of Superman's history has been, yes, he does stand out because he has these powers and these abilities, but essentially he's an Earthling because he's lived here his entire life since he was a baby.
Right.
So, I mean, he's been raised as a human and does and facilitates the things that a human does. And he has the best qualities of a human that anyone would aspire to, but he's just has all these extra gifts. He's no different than if, like, I don't know, if you said someone like Spider-Man was given their powers at a later point in time, they're still human. They have these extraordinary gifts that allow them to do more than what a human can be, but they still have their mindset and thoughts of being human. And then it comes down to sort of a question of what makes a person human or humane or whatever. And so there's all those elements to it as well. But I just thought that Bruce encapsulated it perfectly in that sense, because Bruce has left his humanity in a lot of ways because of what he does, and he no longer tries to acclimate himself to those types of feelings. He always tries to keep everyone at arm's length while he is doing what he's doing, because he focuses in on just taking out bad guys, just on the mission. Whereas Clark has never been that way, and he's always embraced the people around him. And so, I don't know, that just got me. And then there's also parts in the beginning when you guys both have said that you kind of weren't feeling the first half of the movie, whereas I actually loved the first half of the movie because it reminded me of this. I can't remember what it was called, but there's this X-Men cartoon or something that came out back in the day where I remember the structure of the story. It featured maybe 2 minutes of scenes of different X-Men just showing you who they were and what they could do, and highlighting what their abilities were, and then they kind of come together. And it kind of reminded me of that, where you see in the beginning, one of the things I thought was cool was getting to see Wonder Woman in action again, because she was just more confident and more at ease with her abilities. When they were doing the bank thing where they were going to set off the bomb, and the machine gun is going, and she, in fast motion as everything else is in slow motion, is knocking the bullets out of the way and blocking everything. It was just like, I geeked out, because it's just awesome to see that and see that movement done on screen. And that was like one of my favorite moments. And then obviously, one of my other big favorite moments was having Superman return, because having him back and really getting a chance to show just how badass Superman was just put a big smile on my face, because he was beating down the league the way it should be, because he was untethered, and no one could really hold him down, literally. And the way he looked at Flash when Flash was running fast, and he looked at him, and Flash had this look on his face that was like, I don't know how you're seeing me right now, but it's freaking me out.
Right.
And he just ends up like, it still showed that Flash is still faster than Superman, though, because, which I respected, because he should be, because there was times when Superman was trying to swing at him and hit him, but Flash was still able to move out of the way. And so I was like, okay, they're getting everything right. They're showing the way that they should be in their power sets, and everything that is capable. And I like seeing a little taste of what it offers for the Aquaman movie, when you see him underwater and see the battles and action underwater, and there's no speaking or anything of that nature, other than the way they handle it by Mira creating this water bubble, this air bubble, for them to be able to communicate. And I thought that was pretty cool too. So just getting a little glimpse of that makes me, like you said, David, look a little bit more forward to the Aquaman movie, which it's weird to think that it's coming out a year from now, but and that there will be 6 other comic book movies that come out between that time and then, and only one of them is DC is troubling. But the idea that we see them start to come together and be this team was, as you guys have mentioned, it was a lot of the best part of it. And the level of humor in it was a delight to me, because I see Superman smiling and joking around, and even Batman when Superman catches Bruce when he's in the middle of the memoriam for where Superman is in Metropolis, and he has him up in the air by the neck, and he's like, "Tell me, do you bleed?" And it just, I was like, what was that, David?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I love that moment. It was so good.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
that was so good, right?
That moment was absolutely epic. I can agree with you.
It was so awesome for that to come back on him. And then it was just like, when he said bring out the big guns, I had a feeling, and this is what I loved about Batman in this too, he didn't just repeat the same mistakes, and he wasn't the same person that he was from Batman v Superman. He really started to see who Superman was and respected it. And he didn't just say, oh, okay, I have a contingency plan, which involves more kryptonite and putting him back down. He knew the way to get to Superman if there was some trouble there was to bring out Lois, or I thought maybe it was going to be Lois and his mom, and which would have been sort of a funny sort of callback to the whole Martha thing, but it was Lois, and that was like perfect for me, because it really did wake Superman out of that stupor. And the way he just sort of tossed Batman to the side after he saw Lois was funny. And then that humor came in, and I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like it was a Joss Whedon moment when he did go back to Batman after Superman left with Lois, and he was like, yeah, I'm bleeding. It was just
right.
It was just a funny little after effect, and to see that with Batman, I thought worked really well. And one of the other moments that I really liked was seeing Superman, once he came in, it was really like no contest for Steppenwolf. He was just beating Steppenwolf down silly, and it was great to see Superman just really fight and be able to just fight the way he wants to against an enemy that he doesn't really have to hold back on. And the moment where I really liked, where he and Flash were going to go save the people, and Flash saved the people in the truck, and then he turns around and you see Superman flying by with a building full of people. That was just great. That was awesome. And it was funny because right before that happened, when Superman was in the fight with Steppenwolf and Cyborg was there, my son, he turned to me when Superman flew off, and he was like, Dad, Superman's going to go save the civilians. He doesn't want them to be hurt, even though there's a fight. I was like, yes, exactly. He even knew it. And I was just like, that's who Superman is. He will still go save the last civilian, even if there's other danger, because he trusted the team to at least hold Steppenwolf off long enough for him to go help people who were in danger. And you didn't get to see that in Man of Steel, or necessarily to this degree, or in Batman v Superman. And so it felt good because it felt like they really finally got Superman right in a way that I wanted to see him. And it makes me want to see a Man of Steel 2 so badly. But that's just a few of mine. And so I'll let you guys speak because I could keep going on and on because there's a lot of great moments in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sit here and like cover everything, but yeah, I don't know. I guess my first thing was going to jump into the Superman thing of him coming back. And it was interesting. I guess I didn't really know what to expect as to when we were going to see him back in this movie and how early and how he was going to return. And I was surprised to see him return kind of as early in the film as he did. But I was pleasantly surprised. And that, if anything, that was really kind of the major turning point as to when this film got a lot better for me. That really, like, that scene of him kind of alive for the first time and out there where the broken statue is and they're confronting him for the first time, like, from really kind of from that point on was when the film really started to get good. And there's no doubt I agree that Superman, the way he's portrayed in this film, I don't know how it doesn't put a big smile on your face. Like, it's just, it's great. And I've always liked Henry Cavill as Superman, and I continue to like him as Superman, and I want to see a Man of Steel 2 very, very badly, and I hope it happens because I want to see more of him as Superman. It works for me, especially here. And yeah, in terms of spoilers, it's not like I have a lot to really point out. I mean, sure, I could kind of point out all the moments, but you're kind of covering pretty much most of them, Bobby. So I don't really need to repeat any of them. I agree with a lot of the stuff that you liked. Yeah, though, obviously we disagree, like on the first part of the film. I thought the way it was kind of cut together and the storytelling just wasn't good for me. It's very early on in the film we see that this is just one brief moment, but I remember it was like this moment where Batman sees that what are those things called, the flying things?
Parademons.
Yeah, that's right. The parademons, and that one burns up and it leaves the marks, and he's analyzing it with Alfred, and they do this kind of, okay, it's time, and then Alfred looks at the screens and he's like, I forget what he says, but he's got the pictures of all of the Justice League up, and it was just such an eye roll moment for me. I'm like, oh God, really? Like, just the whole thing with their pictures all on the screens. There's something about it that I was just like, oh God, this is terrible. Like, please don't let the rest of the film be like this. And then it just continued, and I'm just like, oh, this is just not good. I don't know, just something about that first half of the movie I just did not like at all. But like I said, it got a lot better. And I definitely plan to see this movie again to kind of see now how I feel about the movie as a whole, to see if I feel any differently about stuff in the first half, and this other stuff I just kind of want to pick up on it and see again. I really, really want to make an effort to see this movie one more time in the theater. I hope it happens. I know this week it's not going to, but I do want to see this again. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where to go from here in terms of spoilers. Again, I hated Steppenwolf. I was not a fan of that villain. It just, luckily they didn't draw out that ending any more than it already was. And not that they didn't draw it out at all in the movie. I thought, again, like I said before, I thought the way this movie ended worked really well. They didn't draw out the fight scene more than they needed to. If they had, it would have made the villain even worse, and I'm so glad they didn't. It worked, and yeah, overall, I'm just, like I said, I'm happy with the movie.
I think it's interesting that in the Wonder Woman movie, I wasn't a fan of the portrayal that we got for Ares,
right?
And that that was very CGI-ish too, and he was being portrayed by a human. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it wasn't like Yeah, so that was weird, but then you get this all CGI character, and that didn't quite work. And though I still had mixed feelings about the movie overall, I do feel as though with Thor Ragnarok, Hela worked better the way that they showed her, in the sense that it was still this real actress in this case, Kate Blanchett, and then there was these scenes of CGI when she was fighting. And I think that may have been a better way to go if you had some actor in prosthetics for close-ups, and then when he's doing his action fighting scenes, then of course you're going to use a CGI because no one's that size. So it would have made sense. And I don't know. I agree that work could have been done there, but I feel like I don't know how much of it is the fault of the movie itself, in the sense that I guess when you have two directors and there's all these reshoots and other things, they're probably more focusing on the actors that they actually do have and less on spending money on the CGI. And I don't know, maybe if they had more time, it could have looked better. Who knows? It could have still looked the same, but it's weird to sort of peg down why that didn't work as much as it didn't work. And I just think that Marvel's had plenty of bad villains, and it's been, for me, not the thing that made it bad or really determined how I felt about the movie, because it is their operating, the way they do things is that they don't focus on the villain. They want to showcase their heroes. And I think their movies work for that reason. And I think that's why this one worked for me, is that they didn't really worry too much about focusing on making a great villain, more so than they worried about focusing on the heroes and making that work. And it did. And so I was happy with it.
I think, too, this is a good example of why the Marvel kind of approach to their whole universe works so much better than DC's approach. Because, like, when Marvel finally got to the Avengers, you didn't really have to kind of introduce a new villain for that movie. You basically knew the villain already.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a movie where you finally had, okay, now we're all together and this is a team up, and you could mostly focus on that. Here, again, you're trying to mostly focus on these heroes, the Justice League, and introducing the ones we haven't even met yet. But also, okay, here's a villain we've never met before, so we've got to introduce you to this guy, and we've got to quickly give you some exposition as to what his motivation is. And we just kind of skim over it really quickly, and it just doesn't work. Like, if we could have built up to this in the other films, and then, okay, we already kind of know what the motivation is going into Justice League, we wouldn't have had to deal with all that. And I think that's mostly what doesn't work here. Other than, and I'm not even getting into the way he looks. I mean, yeah, I just did before, but mostly when it comes to just kind of his development and who this guy is, it just has happened so quickly. And I'll admit, I'm not really familiar with Steppenwolf from the comics. So it was just like, I didn't go into it with like a big background of who this guy was. And I found myself from that perspective going, okay, so yeah, we're getting this quick story from, Wonder Woman. She kind of explains it quickly to everyone. Okay, this is who this guy is, by the way, everybody. And all right, let's move on. And it just doesn't work.
Well, did you not like... Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just getting ready to ask David really quick. Did you not like the way that whole scenario worked when they were on Themyscira and doing the whole keep away of the box from Steppenwolf?
Did I not?
I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was fine, I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I didn't dislike it. I thought it was fine. I didn't particularly like enjoy it. I don't know how to describe how I felt about that, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, some of the spoilers that I would like to touch on real quick, even though Bobby did get everything, and then didn't get everything at the same time. I did love the scene where Superman took on the Justice League and was basically dominating the hell out of them. It was fantastic. And his interaction and conversation with Batman. See, for me, it wasn't necessarily do you bleed line, but what really got me was when he looked at Batman and he said, You won't let me live. You won't let me die. What is it you want from me? Like, I mean, that just sent chills to me. I was just like, man, that's powerful. Like, he looks pissed, like really pissed. And I thought the interaction with him in the Justice League and kind of taking on everybody, that was fantastic. I'm going to get into some other spoilers that we haven't touched on, but I wanted to address before we go. I love the homage at the end where Superman was racing the Flash. I thought that was absolutely brilliant and a lot of fun. And I really, really enjoyed the very last scene and hated it at the same time because I think Jesse Eisenberg is a shit poor, fucking horrible Lex Luthor. I just do not like him as Lex Luthor. He doesn't fit for me. It doesn't work. And when I saw him and his, basically doing the same thing that he did in Batman versus Superman, I cringed and my toes rolled. And that was a huge eye roll moment for me because it just seemed like the same character that we got before. No development and no growth whatsoever. And it's just Jesse Eisenberg playing almost Jesse Eisenberg. And I wasn't pleased. I'm not pleased with that choice for Lex Luthor. I think it's horrible, but I'm looking forward to what's to come, especially with Wade Wilson popping in there. But I mean, and I was excited about that. I mean, I knew it was coming, but at the same time, it was fun to see that.
Yeah, the after credit scenes. I mean, that first one was a lot of fun, and I don't have anything to add to it.
I feel like that was a Joss Whedon add-on.
You think so?
I feel like it.
I mean, it feels very much like him. Yeah, it would be interesting.
Very comic booky.
There's no doubt. I wish I could really just get a full-on like extra on the Blu-ray behind the scenes, like the development of once Joss Whedon took over and what got changed and what he did. I wish I could get like an in-depth look at how he affected this movie and what it was like before he got to it.
Well, I can definitely tell you there's some things that were individual, probably character moments before they all came together that were taken out by Joss, because you can get that just from what we saw in the commercials of this movie, because there's a scene, and I saw a little bit more of it fleshed out online, but there was a scene where Barry Allen touches a glass and it shatters in slow motion and he goes through the glass. And then online they show a little bit more, and that scene has to do with Iris West. Man, I couldn't say that word. Iris West and her involvement with the Flash. That's touched on a little bit more. And then there's also a scene or a character that we didn't even get to see that was in this movie, which was I forget who played him, but it was this character with Aquaman and one of his confidants. And for some reason, I am blanking on the actor's name, but everybody knows this actor, and he was cast in this role, but they said it was cut out, and he'll be into it more into the Aquaman movie itself. But
you're talking about William Dafoe?
Yes, William Dafoe. His character was completely cut out. So there's definitely seems like be more fleshing out of the individual characters that seem to be cut for time.
Right. Well, we're actually pretty much out of time, but Bobby, if you have like any one last thing you really wanted to bring up, or if anybody has one last thing.
Well, yeah, I do. I just wanted to say that I love seeing the little hint of a Green Lantern that you see when they're fighting against Steppenwolf, when it's the Amazonians and then the Atlanteans.
Amen.
And then I also like seeing Deathstroke at the end when he goes aboard Luthor's yacht. That was good to see that Joe Manganiello's part wasn't completely cut out, and that he does still get to be in that universe at some point in time if things work out.
Yeah, sure. Were you gonna say something?
No, I'm actually kind of in agreement with Bobby there.
Yeah,
some of the things that he liked. I mean, we all seem to kind of enjoy this film, so that's good. That's about it.
And going back to my desire to see it one more time too, another thing I'm really wanting to kind of maybe understand for myself better is I fully admit it's hard for me to explain what it is about Ben Affleck's Batman in this movie that I didn't enjoy as much. I really can't explain at this point. That's another reason I'm curious to see it again. Maybe I can better explain that to you guys because I don't really have a good explanation. I'm just saying when I compare him to all the other characters in Justice League, he was kind of my least favorite. Is really all I've got. So, and I don't know why I in Batman vs Superman, and I went into Batman v Superman super skeptical of a Ben Affleck Batman, but then I saw that movie, and for all of its problems, I really enjoyed him as Batman. Especially loved that fight scene we got later in the movie of him in that building versus all those guys. It was amazing. But then something, I don't know. There's something about him in this movie that didn't work as much for me, and I can't pinpoint it yet. That's why I'm curious. Another reason I'm curious to see the movie one more time.
Yeah, I definitely want you to see it one more time, just so you can flesh that out a little bit more. Because I've seen it twice, and hopefully you'll get to see it.
I didn't realize you've seen it twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that, but yeah, I've seen it twice, and hopefully I can get to see it one more time. And I just got even more out of Bruce, Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman the second time around when I saw it. Just even things I caught the first time that still hit me and resonated the second time around. The way he is still kind of being a detective and doing things that he knows is for the greater good, and that he's willing to die at any moment for the trying to defend this planet and everyone, that whether he feels it's the right thing to do or not, that everyone will agree upon, he's willing to make those hard choices. Like it was so great when he called out Diana on this whole Steve Trevor thing, and her response to it was pretty great too, when she socked him in the stomach and he just goes flying. I thought it was perfect because this is what Batman would do. He would try and push the envelope. He would get what he wants the results to be. And it forced her to kind of look at that. He was like, "Where have you been? You've been hiding. Why aren't you out there in the front?" Yeah.
He pulled her card so quickly. He's like, "You've been gone for a century off of a broken heart. Right. Don't talk to me about doing what I need to do."
Yeah. I just loved those elements. And then just towards the end too, once we're getting the voiceover from Lois Lane, I loved seeing the shots of them being with the people. And when Wonder Woman has foiled this heist and the kids come up to her and they're talking to her, and it just felt more like how it should be, it is in the comics, where you see them interacting with the people they save and being there for them, and just seeing that one part on the rooftop where they're all together. And that's like just awesome, just seeing all the Justice League together, and it was just this slow motion pan up. I feel like that was definitely a Zack Snyder thing for whatever reason, but it was just all of them together, and it just was like, this is what I want to see. And it just had that uplifting feel to it towards the end of that movie, just seeing Clark pull open his shirt and take off in the skies. It's just classic stuff, and I just was very happy. Very happy.
Yeah. All right. Really quick, one last thing that we haven't even gotten to yet, but really fast. Box office numbers, and that is that, Justice League was number one this weekend, but it didn't break the 100 million mark. It's at 96 million right now for an estimate. So,
that's discouraging.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's crazy. It's crazy that it's the least making movie of all the DCEU movies.
That was the next thing I was going to mention, is that, it's of the five, it is, not the least, the smallest opening weekend for a DCEU film.
I hope that's not a trend, that it's just going to start going downhill, because they have so much fun stuff planned.
Right.
But if it's not going to make money, they're not going to do them. They're just going to cancel and scrap everything.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping is that next week, what will happen is that we all are in agreement. We liked it all to varying degrees, maybe that word of mouth will spread. And for people who have been on the fence, maybe they'll go check it out. And maybe the marketing will start to show Superman in it after this first week. And that will bring people who didn't even know that Superman's in this movie, who are outside the bubble. They'll be like, oh, Superman is in this movie? Well, maybe I'll go check it out now. And being the holiday weekend next weekend, maybe the drop off won't be too substantial. And then that can mean that it can have good legs. But hopefully we'll see.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I hope word of mouth helps us. But yeah, it was at number 1 with 96 million. Wonder, another new release, was at number 2, which had a good weekend for that at 27 million. Pushing Thor Ragnarok to third in its third week. Thor Ragnarok pulled in a little over 21 million. And then rounding out the top 5, Daddy's Home 2 was at number 4, and Murder on the Orient Express was at number 5. But yeah, guys, with that, it is about time to get out of here. As always, we'd love to hear back from everyone listening. You can let us know what you thought of everything we talked about. You can leave questions and comments for us at feedback@flickereffect.com. You can also find us on various social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you're looking for links to those accounts, just go to our website. They're over on the right-hand side. I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
Thanks for listening.